Greetings, fellow gamers. Today, I'll be reviewing Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon on the PS5 Pro. Now, for full transparency, I was sent a review copy of the game by the lovely folks at Awaken Realms, so despite the game's launch due for tomorrow, I can bring you this review early, thanks to the embargo being lifted. I've been playing this game for the last week, so hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a better idea as to whether this game is for you and something worth investing in. Now, to be honest, I was blindsided by Tainted Grail. I'd never heard of it until I was contacted by the studio due to its independent nature and early builds of the game only existing in early access on PC. The console port seemed to just appear on PSN as a just-announced title around the time I was contacted. But after reading the game's synopsis and hearing the buzz regarding the largely positive feedback on Steam, I was pleasantly surprised and optimistic that Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon was something to actually be excited about. For more context surrounding this game, let's understand the people who created it, as I feel that's an important lens to consider during this review. The creative minds behind Tainted Grail are a small independent Polish studio called Awaken Realms. They consist of around only 50 talented minds, so in today's landscape, they're a relatively small studio, even more so when considering the scope and vision of this game specifically. Now, Awaken Realms typically publish an array of fantasy-themed board games, of which one does actually exist of Tainted Grail, but in this instance, their subsidiary studio, who go by the name of Questline, is bringing that board game to life with the Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. Both Questline and Awaken Realms operate out of Poland and are both committed to delivering an immersive open-world dark fantasy RPG. This is very much an indie game at its core, so expectations must be tempered and realistic. So what exactly is this game? In Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, you step into a dark reimagination of Arthurian legends in the format of a first-person open-world RPG. The player must explore a world stuck in everlasting autumn, witness falling legends, and make meaningful choices woven into a complex, branching storyline. In a nutshell, this is indie Skyrim, but with a heavy Dark Souls influence. Now, the Dark Souls influence is predominant throughout, whether it's the health, magic, and stamina system, the entire loot system, the importance of bonfires to craft and distribute stats, the overarching atmosphere that gives pure Souls vibes. You really feel like at times you're playing a first-person Dark Souls. This is emphasized further when encountering the many NPCs who are excellently voiced and capture the lonely, haunting dark fantasy energy that helps bring it all together.
I'm Abigail, a knight. I swore my sword to my lady's will, and she kept me close.
This game, so far to me, it really is a cross between like Oblivion and Dark Souls. First-person Dark Souls game. Hello, Mr. Wolf. I don't want to kill you, but some of the vistas are absolutely stunning and hold a striking visual style akin to the likes of Elden Ring. You can definitely appreciate the inspiration. These areas captivated my imagination and filled me with curiosity and excitement about the adventure that lay before me. Ooh. Wow. I actually gained some Elden Ring vibes with this. First-person Elden Ring. Now, before I get into gameplay mechanics, performance, and everything in between, allow me to give you the rough gist as to what exactly is going on here. From my understanding so far, the story goes as follows. Our homeland was ravaged by a plague called the Red Death that killed vast amounts of people, so King Arthur and his knights led their remaining healthy people to the islands of Avalon. At that time, Avalon was inhabited by the Four Dwellers, which I believe to be giants, and the island was covered in a mist called the Weirdness, which was kind of a reality-bending substance. In order for the humans to survive, Merlin used the mysterious powers of Menriers to dispel the weirdness and cleanse the land. Arthur defeated the Four Dwellers and restored peace, and the rebuilding of Camelot began. Now, the game takes place 600 years after this, where legends like Arthur and Merlin have perished. Camelot is in shambles, and the weirdness is creeping back into the lands. The Red Death Plague has returned, so an order of red priests from the island asylum seek to stop it at any costs. You, the player, wake up as an inmate of this asylum, and thus your epic adventure through Avalon begins. In layman's terms, it's basically a twisted version of King Arthur, for my money anyway. Now, I don't want to spoil any of the story from what I've experienced so far, but let's just say there's a branching, complex story here that players can get invested in, with dialogue options that can affect outcomes. One small example of this in-game is the guard you meet who is drunk and asleep while on duty. After entering the keep and speaking with the quartermaster and mentioning the guard was drunk on duty, the next time you visit the keep, that guard will be in the stocks and now hold a grudge against you. These subtle effects from your actions all help to build an evolving world and give the player a greater sense of control.
You're the reason they put me here. You just wait until they let me out. I'll beat you so hard your own mother won't recognize you. Come a little closer, so I can spit in your face.
The story exposition is mostly told through NPC dialogue, but as you've seen as I've been talking, the game also moves its narrative along with beautiful artwork, and in some cases, exceptional CG. And as you heard there, this game has an absolutely kick-ass soundtrack featuring pulsing tracks from the likes of Dan Hine, who create Viking-inspired Nordic folk music. I've actually used his music a lot in my early Chivalry 2 content. Absolutely adore the music he creates. It's sure to get your blood flowing and awaken the pagan spirit in you. Now, just for clarification, my review access copy of the game was played with copyrighted music disabled to avoid any copyright myself during this review process. I'm sure there's much more to be heard over the gameplay than you will in this video, just thought that might be worth mentioning. I also mentioned earlier that you begin your journey from the cells of the asylum, but not before you get the opportunity to create your character. Tainted Grail features all the basic customization you would come to expect in a game of this nature. There's a reasonable amount of options to create the character of your choosing. I went for a tribal-looking shield maiden vibe. The game offers you 3 difficulties based on your experience as a gamer and the kind of challenge you want. I went for the middle ground in Adventurer, and I can tell you the game offers a decent challenge with enemies able to best you with relative ease. Sure.
Happy to oblige.
Oh dear God. Oh dear God, you've got fancy sword and shield. Oh God. Okay. Alright then. The combat system is similar in nature to other games in this genre. The likes of Skyrim is probably the closest resemblance. Now it is 2025, but this is an indie title, so there must be a certain level of forgiveness here. The game does utilize a parry system and heavily relies on stamina for efficiency, akin to the likes of the Souls series. Although unlike in Souls games, where you would roll for evasion, Tainted Grail features a dash mechanic triggered with the R1 button. Timing your dashes and parries is key to patiently outwitting your adversary and evening the odds when outnumbered. I wasn't blown away by the melee combat personally. It's a little clunky at times, and in the review build I had, there was also frame rate and stuttering issues which made combat even more unpredictable. Over time, as I improved at the game and leveled up in key stats, the nuances of Tainted Grail's combat grew on me, and I feel it's fine in its current format. I just hope the final product post-day 1 patches can address the drop in frames. I focused all my minerals to a pure melee build, but there's plenty of room here for experimentation with magic, spells, and pyromancy-style gameplay opportunities. The leveling system to complement this is deep, with countless stats to improve and modifiers that can turn you into a juggernaut of fury. There's numerous skill trees with which to distribute your hard-earned levels into covering all of the basic properties you get in role-playing games. I'd imagine, by the end game, you'd be rather godly.
Show yourself!
Nope.
Your gold belongs to us.
Say your prayer.
Say you what now? Weapons and armor is your standard mix of melee and magic enchanted fare we all come to expect in this genre. They are loot-based in the usual colour formats, green being a common, blue a rare, and so on. You can assign gear individually into your offhand like Dark Souls, so you can dual wield and experiment with different combinations. These are quickly accessed in-game with the radial wheel. I felt this all worked fine and was responsive and intuitive when it needed to be. Hit detection was okay when there was no frame drops, and it felt weighty, cleaving my two-handed swords into foes. For what is, at its core, a rather simple combat system, it works well within the framework of the game and doesn't try to be something it isn't. Combat is further enhanced later on with soul fragments, giving you a power that can manipulate and slow down time for 30 seconds or so with a click of the right thumbstick. I'm sure this feature will be evolved further into the story. Now, there was an instance of a boss freezing on me during combat, providing me an easy kill. I'm not sure what happened here, but the devs did warn me there would be issues that, while present here, will be rectified come full release. There was also this bloke I beat to death through the door, but that's fair game, right? Hello? Oh, you look angry. Oh no. Oh no. I was just
Your death is certain. You'll suffer for your sins.
oh yeah.
A few moments later.
Purge!
That'll do. Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon also has a multitude of features that aid this genre so well and really grew the game's impact on me. Some of these awesome features include the cooking of meals, which you can learn through recipes. These meals are crafted out of ingredients you discover throughout your journey, and the meals offer healing buffs and stamina regeneration properties vital in combat. Equally, there is alchemy. Same principle as food, only there's a greater variety of offensive as well as defensive potions that can drastically increase your chances of survival. Both the cooking of food and alchemy can be done at a bonfire, which you can craft and build anywhere on the world map virtually. Here, you also engage in whispers with the spirit of Arthur for more story and narrative exposition. There's also fishing, with a variety of fish species to catch. Sadly, I have no footage of this.
I should be gone.
There's mining at select locations for raw crafting materials, for weapons and armor at a blacksmith's. You can chop wood at select points, again for crafting. There's even a sketchbook, and when activated, you will automatically sketch the scene in front of you. Sadly, I didn't record footage of this because I'm an idiot. You can dig up treasure using your trusty shovel, which is always satisfying. I even stumbled upon one of my favourite things in open world games, the ability to not only buy a home, but also decorate it. I did find a trader not far from here that sold all manner of decorations for your home. Absolutely love it. So I've managed to find somewhere you can actually buy as a home. 20,000. As you can tell, Tainted Grail has many cool features that help to build a unique, immersive experience, but in this genre, it wouldn't be complete without the hindrance of encumberment. Yes, this game has an encumber system. If you don't distribute skill points into endurance, you will find yourself constantly encumbered, which is a nightmare fuel for someone of my disposition. I'm a gamer. I like shiny. I must collect all shiny, and I mean everything. Given the opportunity, I will hoard it all if it's not nailed down in order to trade and kickstart my character's economy and build a collection of weapons and armor in the process. This was as annoying as any other game. There is a stash box accessible from the keep or tavern that fixes these woes, but you cannot fast travel while encumbered, so there's still inventory management to organize at the best of times. I completely understand why encumberment exists in these kind of games, it just makes the early game a bit of a ball ache for collectors. But with all that being said, it doesn't take away from my overall feelings towards the game. There are factions located in various settlements, and your dealings and actions will dictate behavior towards you, and I must say, a special mention for the voice work. Every NPC I met seemed to have an organically different personality. I encountered countless different voices and accents, all voiced with enthusiasm and belief.
Do you see what a miracle I am?
Oh, mother's tits. I've just about had it with this bunch of repressed virgins.
Oh, a new face. I haven't seen you before.
I really did appreciate this. It's all too easy in this genre to just duplicate NPCs or have the same voice actor do half the town, but here I found it refreshing to engage with each new character. Special mention to Mute Finley, where multiple choice gets you results based on his reactions. Using all of the varied materials and monster parts you collect on your journey through Avalon, at a designated blacksmith, you can access the Grindstone table, and here you have 4 options. There's handcrafting of new weapons and armor, upgrading the base stats of your existing weapons, attaching relics to give your weapons magical properties, and armor weight reduction, which is a very welcome feature indeed, especially given the aforementioned encumberment. There's countless books to purchase from select traders that grant more recipes at the Grindstone, so there's numerous ways to go about building your desired arsenal. Tainted Grail features a robust quest system with your main quests, side quests, and miscellaneous quests all tracked and easily followed via waypoints, and this is complemented with a map. Here you can place your own markers and get a better geographical understanding of the land you hope to explore. It's all standard for this formula and works well here with no complaints from me. Now I will briefly touch on performance and optimization, as my results will vary greatly as I don't have the luxury of day one patches and post-release fixes. The review access build I had was locked in quality mode but only at 1080p resolution. There was no option for performance mode in my build and certainly no pro enhanced features. I did encounter drops in frame rates during select instances and occasional heavy stuttering during combat. It was by no means game-breaking, but I would certainly want this addressed by final release. There was FOV sliders, which again I greatly welcome, and a decent array of accessibility for an indie title. There is a third-person mode, but the devs warned it's experimental and the game wasn't intended for third person, so you may encounter technical issues, but it's still nice to have the perspective and appreciate your character. I also didn't seem to notice any DualShock 5 specific features in the form of haptic feedback, only your standard vibration features. Now, I actually did reach out to the devs for clarification on certain topics that may be questions you have too. Here's what they had to say. So regarding PS5 performance, the devs say the frame rate is good, only the wrong VSync settings make the game look like it's stuttering, and this also depends on the TV and settings you have. They patched this issue apparently, and are still looking at providing even better options. I tested this with VSync on and off, and the difference is marginal to say the least. Only with VSync off now adds screen tearing. Again, for clarity, I'm running this on a PS5 Pro on a 165Hz gaming monitor. So if you're running a standard PS5 on a TV, you're certainly likely to encounter these kind of tech defects. The devs also told me there is no plan for PS5 Pro enhancements at this time. They ain't saying never, it's just their focus is delivering a polished PS5 version first, which is completely the right philosophy. There are no plans for co-op, this is strictly a single-player experience, and I was told dependent on the game's success will determine the potential addition of a new game plus and post-release DLC, so time will tell going forwards. Now then, before I close this out with my final impression of the game, I feel it's important to be fully transparent, so I'll share with you an unfortunate instance that prevented me from actually finishing the game before this review. Around 20 hours in, I was fighting Senin the Giant. He absolutely destroyed me in more or less one swing, no problem with any of that. The problem was once I went to reload my checkpoint, only for my save file to corrupt. I was greeted with this message. Sadly, it wasn't just my main hard file, but also all 5 autosaves corrupted too.
Don't look at me like that. You don't get as far in life as I have if you can't smell bullshit from a mile away.
I was proactive and immediately reached out to the devs at Awaken Realms, who to their credit have been extremely accommodating and punctual with their replies, always willing to engage in dialogue to help address any issues I encountered during my time with the review build. It didn't take them long after a back and forth to get to the bottom of the corruption issue, and after a few hours they contacted me again to notify me of a hotfix that would prevent the issue ever happening again. However, sadly, as you may have guessed, all of my files remained corrupted, and there was no way to reverse this. I simply had to start the game from scratch and begin all over again. This was heartbreaking, as I simply didn't have the time to start over before I needed to put this video together, so that culminated my time with Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. I am positive the devs have fixed this issue, and it won't be a problem at launch. From all my interactions with them, they seem truly committed and passionate about delivering a great game. So, all this leads to my final thoughts. Is Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon a good game? Is it worth your time and money? Would I recommend this title? The answer to all three is yes, but with some caution. I must add the caveat that if the final console launch contains the same frame issues, stuttering, and corrupt save files, then I cannot, in good faith, recommend this title. Not until that is fixed and performance is smooth, stable, and free of corruption. That's the bare minimum a consumer should expect, a working product. If none of that is an issue come launch on console, then I do recommend this title. Ultimately, this game is created by 50 or so people and is an indie game with an indie budget, so there is an absence of AAA polish here. You can expect a high percentage of bugs and glitches, but no less charm. On the contrary, you can feel the love that's been poured into this title, and it amazes me that 50 people can produce a product with this vision and scope, with so many systems and features, and even more I never got to see. The likes of Bethesda likely has 50 people per department, never mind 50 in total to build the entire game. Open world RPGs are not new by any stretch, but Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon offers a good alternative in the genre. If you enjoy the Elder Scrolls series, or even the Dark Souls series, I believe there's enough here that's worth investing in. Despite the technical issues, I really enjoyed my time in Avalon. The lore and setting of dark fantasy is well executed, the combat is Skyrim-esque with subtle advancements, the music is fantastic, characters are excellently voiced and believable. The game loop is satisfying and fun to play. The character creation is a little lacking by modern standards, but offers just enough in this formula. I did encounter technical issues, but I've been assured by the devs all will be addressed by launch. The full game offers 50 to 70 hours of gameplay for the grounded price of 38 coins. This is a fair compromise, and a game I feel will only grow in stature as time progresses. And that's pretty much Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon, folks. If you found this review helpful, please show your support by giving the video a thumbs up. I create all my content on the PlayStation itself via the editing suite, including this video, so please help share my work so I can continue to improve my content and give you honest, authentic gameplay that you can trust. If you have any questions regarding Tainted Grail, fire them down in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.